Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us This Week in America on the Blue Front Broadcasting Radio Network. Website thisweekinamerica.us. As promised on the program today, talking about something very important: debt, how to get out of debt, how to stay out of debt, how to settle your way out of debt. Norman Perlmutter, CPA, is with us on the program. Author of the excellent book, How to Settle Your Debts Without Committing Financial Suicide. His website is getoutofdebtcoach.com. And by the time you hear this program, probably his blog website will be up, debtgap.com. We'll give you all that information throughout the program. Norm, welcome back to This Week in America. Always fascinating to have you on the program. Great to have you with us today.
Always a pleasure to speak with you and your listeners, Rick.
We get so many comments, and people after you come on, and all the good information that you get. You can get sort of general information everywhere, but this is information that you don't hear everywhere. And Norm brings an interesting perspective, because for many years he was very successful running a collection agency. So we've seen it on both sides. He's now dedicated to helping consumers through the problem of debt. We're going through a list of the top 10 killer mistakes that you must avoid attempting to get out of debt, and we've done it over a series of programs. We're up through number 6, and I'll have Norm recap those in just a few minutes. On the last program, we talked about settlement, because here's a way for people to get out of debt quickly by reaching a settlement. And I understand that things have changed since the last time you were here, Norm, in fact, to the benefit of the consumer.
Yeah, absolutely, Rick. Things keep changing every day, and the only way I find out about it is because, because the credit card companies really don't go out advertising what they're doing. But many people I talk to are being contacted by their credit card lenders and being made various offers. And when we last spoke, I had said that the climate had completely changed, that settlements were being actually offered unsolicited that is, they were contacting people who were behind and offering them settlements. But the settlements were primarily lump sum. I mean, they weren't interested in payouts. They're taking as much as 50-60% off what you owe, provided you pay them the full amount, the full balance that's left. For instance, if you owe $10,000, they offer you a 50% settlement. You owe $5,000, and they will settle your account for $5,000, provided you pay that $5,000 within a specified period of time. I think they're giving like 60 days or something like that from the date the agreement is reached. But now I'm hearing people getting unsolicited offers for payout settlements, which I'm very surprised, because the main thing that was motivating them to make these settlements was to get the money in quick, because they were hurting, as we all know, most of them as part of large banking organizations. But now they're offering at least one or two of them. I know Chase has, because I've seen the letter. They've offered someone a settlement that I know for a substantial discount, and then giving them the ability to pay it out over a period of time without interest accumulating. So, things are. The consumer is in a really good position right now. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of opportunities out there, especially in the settlement area. If that's one of the tactics that make sense for you to use to deal with your debt.
Now, if you use the settlement, how does that appear on the credit report? And is there anything we need to specify so it does the least amount of damage on the credit report?
For the most part, they won't tell the credit card companies that your debt is paid in full. They won't do that. I mean, I'm not saying 100%, but the common phraseology used when they notify the credit bureaus, the majors who they all report to, is, debt settled in full. I mean, they use the word settled, which of course, to a degree, is a derogatory, indicating that you've settled the debt for less than you owed, which will certainly affect your credit score. Not terribly, I don't know. Nobody really knows how bad it'll affect you, because they keep that so secret. But certainly a lot better than charge-off, or a lot better than bankruptcy filing, or a judgment, or lawsuit, or stuff like that, I would expect. But it certainly, I tell a lot of people come to me and they say, well, I want to get out of debt, but I also don't want to hurt my credit score. Well, I say, well, you're talking to the wrong guy, because I can't wave a magic wand and do that for you. You got to deal with your debts first, and dealing with debt almost always will cause some additional credit damage. I have 2 chapters in my book that tell you how to limit that damage, but you can't avoid it, except for maybe, some amazing exceptions. But so you have to expect some additional damage to your credit while you're in the process of proactively dealing with your debts, and it's a fact of life. Credit debt first, then you deal with credit. The idea is to minimize the damage, and that can be done to a great extent.
You're listening to Norman Perlmutter, CPA, author of the book How to Settle Your Debts Without Committing Financial Suicide, on This Week in America, our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Norm's is getoutofdebtcoach.com. Also, starting by the time you hear this, or very soon, will be debtgap.com. That will be his mini site, his blog site. A lot of great information on that as well. It's a great resource because consumers do have rights, and he outlines those in the book. And we're going to go back and pick up now with the top 10 killer mistakes. We're through 6. Norm, let's sort of briefly recap the first 6. Give your spin on those and why they're important. Then we'll pick up with the new one.
Right. I'm going to do it real briefly because last time I think I spent more time recapping than I spent.
Well, each one is so interesting. We could actually do a show on each one.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, first we discussed some time ago is the wrong attitude. Many people have the wrong attitude. They don't believe they can do it. They're not willing to committing to do it, and they're not willing to do what they have to do to take control of their own situation. Very important that those things be overcome, and so that you enter this with the right attitude. Next, you have to make informed decisions, which means you have to learn something. You have to learn about your rights. You have to, learn about the different opportunities that are out there, the different tactics you can use to help yourself in a debt situation, in getting out of debt. The third thing is what I call blind trust. There are a lot of people out there, I call them opportunists, but there are probably some better words I can use to describe them, who are selling products, services, whatever you want to call them, to help people get out of debt. Most of them in the area of things they call debt consolidation, and debt settlement companies. Now, both are tactics, that is consolidation and settlement, that can be used in a overall plan or strategy to get out of debt. But certainly they're not the only things you should use, and in many cases they're not even applicable to you. But the people who sell them, that's what they sell. So as far as they're concerned, that's the best thing for you, because that's how they make their money. So they'll talk you into it, so you got to be very careful. The next thing is seeking a permanent solution. Many of the solutions out there, especially debt consolidation, and most forms of debt consolidation, does not represent a permanent solution. What it is a postponement. When you consolidate your debts, all you're really doing is paying less per month, in effect, possibly with some interest relief. However, all that means is it's just going to pay. You don't have to come up with as much money each month, but in the long run, you're going to pay a lot more because the debt's going to be outstanding a lot longer, and even though the interest rate is reduced, it's going to cost you more in interest, plus it's going to go on forever. So you want to find a solution that's going to just end your debt as quickly as possible. Debt consolidation can be useful, certain aspects of it, because there are many types of debt consolidation, but you have to be very careful. The next one we call was, it sort of relates to blind trust, being naive. People are just sucked into so many of these schemes that are out there. It amazes me, and you gotta understand what's involved, and you can't be taken by people. The next one was a very important one. Creating a debt elimination strategy, and that goes along with what I said before. Goes along with, there are several methods that most people can use in the process of getting out of debt. It all depends on their situation, and it all depends on their needs. And you learn about the different things, the different tactics that can be used, and you use them to create an overall strategy. Not just settling debts, not just consolidating debt, but using various tactics that may include one or two or both of those in a debt elimination plan and strategy from which you create an action plan.
And you can go to the website, getoutofdebtcoach.com, debtgap.com, which will be up very soon if it's not up already, the blog site, or the book How to Settle Your Debts Without Committing Financial Suicide, and get great information on how you can do these tactics. And it's not really magic, it's just sort of logic and following through what the expert tells you to do. And you can do it yourself. That's the nice thing about what Norm is talking about in the book How to Settle Your Debts and on his website. You're listening to This Week in America, Blue Funk Broadcasting Broadcasting Radio Network, website thisweekinamerica.us. You can always go to that, log on to find out information on all our guests, including Norman Perlmutter, author of How to Settle Your Debts. His website is getoutofdebtcoach.com. We're now up to a new one on the top 10 killer mistakes people make. The new one, and you say this may be the most important, number 7, not customizing your debt elimination strategy. Explain that for us.
I just wanted to say, Rick, that I think we talked about on my blog, debtgap.com, when it's up, and that should be soon, will be a complete summary of all of these things we've discussed here, going right through the ones. In fact, when it's up through this number 7, we'll continue to place the other aspects of the process on there.
Right, so all the advice you're getting, you can go to the website, and you don't have to write it down as we're doing the program. You can actually go afterwards and look at the website.
Detailed outline of it, yes. Okay. All right. This is key, okay? And I mentioned it before in my comments. A debt elimination strategy, okay? A customized debt elimination strategy, because everybody's situation is different, and what works for one person is not going to necessarily work for the next person, okay? First of all, you have to learn. The first thing that has to be done is you have to fully understand your problem. You have to understand what your resources are, okay? People have resources they can use to help them get out of debt. Some people have money, or they have assets that could be turned into money. There are so many. A person might have a boat. It's a bad example because they're hard to sell. But a person might have an expensive automobile that they love it, yes, and it's great, but it's a luxury. They don't need it, and they can think about buying something like that in the future when they get their situation under control. Do you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. When they get their situation under control, and when you can sell an automobile, let's say, and replace it with a much less expensive one, and net $10,000-$12,000 or something like that, that's an amazing assistance in getting out. In getting out of debt, because number one, you're reducing what you have to pay. You're reducing the interest that's accumulating. So paying off debt to the extent possible using resources, even borrowed resources, but it's important that you don't borrow from a source that's not going to do you much. It's going to wind up being as much problem as who you're paying off right now. But if you can lend money from relatives, and I hate to say that because sometimes that causes problems, but sometimes you have parents who are willing to help you, and even if you have to pay them some interest, which you probably should because it's probably the right thing to do, it makes it. The resources that are out there that you might have are the number one place you go. The second place you go is to your budget. Okay, you create a budget, you study what you spend each month, and you cut it to the extent possible. Okay, and use that extra money each month to pay down debt. You want to pay it down as fast as you can, and then once you use what you have, what's available to you to help yourself, you start getting involved with tactics like settlement, like consolidation. And debt consolidation could mean so many things. Getting a equity loan on your home is a form of debt consolidation that I seldom recommend, because there you're swapping unsecured debt for secured debt. If you default on the unsecured debt, the worst that can happen is you'll get bad marks on your credit score, and you might get sued, but probably won't be. And if you default on the equity loan, you can lose your home.
And sometimes you get pressured by collectors. I've heard where collectors have said, "Do you own property? Take out a home equity loan, take out a second mortgage, whatever, to pay this off," and they pressure you to do that. And like you're saying, you're giving up something that's unsecured for something that's secured and could eventually cost you your property.
Right. It's a very bad policy to swap unsecured debt for secured debt. There are instances, and I have worked with people where it made sense, but it's seldom the smart thing to do. Okay, so you have to know your specific problem. You have to understand your needs. Now, some people, credit is not a major issue. They really don't foresee anything, especially for, let's say, senior citizens, who seldom are going to be doing anything where they need to credit in the foreseeable future. So even though I'm not a fan of bankruptcy, bankruptcy may turn out to be your best option, especially if reputation, credit, and things like that, and your specific psyche, because some people, it's unacceptable to them to even think of bankruptcy. I don't know why, because it's legal, but that's, of course, a personal thing. The key is this. you have to look at your situation, you have to look at your life, and how what you do to deal with your debt will affect it, because that's very important. And you have to take inventory of the resources you have, and from that point, and then see what you can do with that. And then once you get past that, and you still have a problem, which probably you will, okay, then you start looking at the tactics you can use to get out of debt. And some of them are some of them are simple. Some of them are just understanding the way that you go about paying your debt. Okay, I mean, there are people out there who say the best way to pay debts off is to pay the minimums on everything and put the most money to the smallest debts, because their reasoning for that is well, you'll pay off a debt and it'll make you feel good. But that's nonsense, because it's not financially sound. You put the most money towards the highest interest debt.
Which seems to make sense. Yeah,
that saves you money.
I've heard that other theory. Norm, unfortunately, we're out of time.
Oh, okay.
And Norm will be back because we've got 8, 9, and 10 to go through yet. The key word to remember
we got to finish 7.
In number 7, we finish 7 is strategy. That's the one to remember, that word strategy. It's something that's customized. It's something that's individualized. More information at the website getoutofdebtcoach.com or the blog site debtgap.com.
Yeah, and I will put the entire outline of that step number 7 on the blog.
Perfect. Norm, thank you so much. Great to have you with us. We'll have Norm back on This Week in America.